Hello and welcome to MLOps Minutes. In this video, I'm going to introduce you to the debugger, which is not just for debugging, but also for understanding and reading code. It's quite simply a killer feature that I use on a daily basis, and I'll show you how it works. For this demo, for this blank project, I've created a fairly simple script. This script will take a first data frame, a second data frame, and here a random number is generated. If it's greater than 5, we'll return the right data set. Otherwise, we'll merge the two data frames. It's not much use, but it's for the demo. We're using Panda, so I've created a requirements.txt file with the Panda version. To work in peace, I created an isolated environment. I went here to File Settings. Here I have my Python Interpreter tab. I clicked on Add Interpreter and created a virtual environment with virtual environment. venv is included in Python, it's native, and allows you to create virtual environments. In the future, we won't be using this one. We'll be using others, but for this demo, it's more than enough. I selected, and once I'd done that, what did I do? I went to the terminal. I made sure that the correct Python interpreter was enabled in my editor. You can see here that I have venv in use. So I did pip install R in my requirements text file, which downloaded Panda. Now if I want to run my little script, what I can do is Python. This executes my script, but it's not really what I want. To run my script with my editor, my development environment, here I have little buttons, Run Demo or Debug Demo. You may need to configure it by clicking here on Edit Configuration. PyCharm may not configure your script by default, so you need to create Add New, Python. I'll select Python. I'll select my script to run. It's a bit of configuration, but it's worth it. I forgot to check that I'd put my Python interpreter here, which is the right one, and my working directory, which is the right one. Good. Now what I can do is Ctrl plus F5, which will run my script but not in debug mode. If I want to run my script in debug mode, I'll press F5. But to run it in debug mode, I'll first set a debug point. I'll click on F9. Remember, I'm using the Visual Studio shortcuts I configured in the previous video. So now I can do F5 and select my script. If I'd pressed Alt plus F5, it wouldn't have asked me which script to use. So now my debugger has stopped at my breakpoint, and I can go step by step by doing F10, 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 F10. And then it's interesting because if I put my mouse on my variables here, I can see their values, and I can even go further and click here, VUE as data frame, and see the details of the data frame. I can even filter my data frame, and it will work. For example, here I'm going to filter on the animal column, and I'll get back only my column. There's also a screen at the bottom where you'll find all the variables that appear, and it's the same if I want to see my data frames here. The first or the second, I can see them appear very quickly. I can see the details, I can see the type, I can see all the information associated with my data. So what happens here is that I arrive at a method, and if I keep doing F10, I won't get into it, and my script will continue. And then I'll have my last variable appear, where I'll actually have the merged data frame that corresponds to what I want. So it must have worked in the case where I returned the data frame on the right. So what I want is me to understand what's going on. I'll do F5 again to select my demo script, and I'll start my step-by-step again. And then I'm going to do F10, 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 F10. I'm going to enter the function. So what am I going to do? I'm going to press F11, which will allow me to enter it and see what's going on. So that if I put my mouse on, I get 7. And then if I press F10, I'll have my right-hand data frame turned upside down, and I'll have understood everything that's happened, which is very, very interesting. I can start the procedure all over again. Imagine that I do exactly the same thing again. I.e., I do F10, 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 and then I make a mistake and do F11. I've entered the function when I didn't want to. So what I can do is Shift plus F11, and then I'm out of my mind. Function and return to the current flow, as if the function had been executed but not step by step, and I can continue my script. Voila. What I can also do is that if I restart in debug mode, it's gone. Imagine I want to finish the debug. I want it to happen next. I'm just going to press F5, and my script will continue to run as if nothing had happened. So if I just want to run my script, and in fact, that's not what I want, then I've made a mistake here. I want to debug, and I want to go to the next breakpoint. Well, all I have to do is press F5 and I'll get to the next breakpoint, and that's it. And that's really nice. Last little thing to introduce is the conditional breakpoint here, which can be very useful in fairly complex cases. You can set conditional breakpoints. So I want, for example, to stop on this breakpoint only if random number is greater than 2. If it's not, I won't stop on it, so I'll restart my script and it's going to stop if it's greater than 2. Well then, bad luck, I wasn't greater than 2. So I'm going to press ALT plus F5 so that it doesn't ask me for the name of the script. Here's ALT plus F5. And no luck either. Maybe I should have done less than 2. So if random number is less than 0, it's more than 2. I'm just out of luck. Let's start again. In this case, my random number is 7, and my breakpoint has stopped on this line, so I can continue my step-by-step. Then voila, F10, 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 voila, etc., etc., etc. The debugger is really an indispensable tool. It's a killer feature, meaning that when you're working on code you don't know, going to debug is just great, especially on Python code where you use a lot of NumPy or pandas functions. Functions which can quickly become difficult to read, and then you immediately understand what's going on. A lot of time. Thank you and see you soon for future videos.